Okay, yeah. So welcome to the HSC Community Meeting, December 17th. So because this is might be our last meeting of the year, we're going to do a year-end wrap up and each go around. So again, the prompt is share one success from the past year, share one lesson learned from the past year, and one thing you're looking forward to in the upcoming year. Um, does anybody feel inspired to start? I'm happy to if folks want to take a little time, but if someone feels inspired, then feel free to jump in. Okay, I'll start. Um, I think it's a success for me that comes in um, is feeling like I've kind of advanced my work, my offering that's primarily for paid work to the point that it feels like there's a certain level of stability, not like stability, but like a certain level that's there that feels like some of the kind of bigger stress that was there the year before, around like, hey, how am I gonna just get paid and pay my bills, has dissipated, and so it's not the end all be all goal of my life, but that does feel like I'm looking back in the year like a good success, and to feel just like a place where there's it's where I feel like, all right, I could you know I have something that it seems like people will will pay for. So that helps just sort of like be in a more easeful place in the nervous system. Um, yeah, lesson learned. I didn't actually prepare my three, but um, yeah, I think I think a lesson learned, for me is, even maybe more than before, is just the lesson of like, like time and the difference between, how, like how long, I desire something, to take, if there's something that I want to happen, the difference between how my desire for when I want that to happen and, the difference between like how long I think it should take, even if I feel like I'm being very like logical and, sound about it, how long I think it should take. So the difference between those two and like the actual reality, of how things, kind of come through in life. And so I think that that's you know, had a lot of opportunities, to kind of see that over and over again. And, I'm not saying that's like, oh, now I've learned that lesson, but just to maybe learn it better. The thing I'm looking forward to in the new year, yeah, I'm looking. Sorry, I've got this dog is scratching the door. Go, 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 go. All right, excuse me. I think the thing I'm looking forward to, yeah, in the new year is like the possibilities, of what's next. So the possibilities of where, the kind of work that I can be doing, either just projects working on, or the kind of work I guess I can be doing for, that's might be continuing forward in paid work, and combining that with like what's meaningful to me. Certainly, like HSC and where that can go in a year, and where my physical body is going to be in a year. So whoops, I think we were supposed to do one thing and I said three, so that's so that's my problem. But I am done. So thank you for listening. I appreciate being able to share all that. And whoever is inspired, please jump in.
I'm happy to go. Thank you. That was lovely, Rob. I love the prompt. One success from the past year, so many things in my system have settled. including my body of work, because for a long time I was like every week I was calling it something different. I was talking about it differently because it was very dynamic. It was still moving and morphing and evolving. And now it feels a lot more settled and it's like I can talk about it more consistently. And so that's been helpful to build kind of like a little bit more momentum in how I talk about things. It's still moving a little bit in terms of how I describe it, but the body of work itself is much more solid and steady. And to me, that's a huge success because it's definitely something, it's not mine, but I've received it and I'm supposed to be transmitting it to others. And so I'm grateful for that. Lesson learned is still in the process of learning the lesson, but it's definitely to really be at peace and accepting each part of my life exactly as it is, like not needing it for it to be different than how it is. Some days I'm good at that, some days I'm not. But but I think that that lesson really emerged from this year. Like it was very clear to me that that was what I'm currently practicing is just really being at peace and accepting of where my life is and going through that journey. And one thing I'm looking forward to in the next year is actually really centering around events. So centering around specific events and ideally having them happen on a weekly basis. So one is the offers and needs market, and the other one is a VIP day. So those two things really feel like my core skill sets. Well, there's other things I do, but like the core essence of my skill sets can really be demonstrated in those two events. And so I would love to be having them on a weekly basis in different capacities with different groups and just keep practicing them and getting better and better at them and having more and more people impacted by them. That is something that I'm really looking forward to as a goal for next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Deborah. Yeah, it's wonderful to hear. Thank you. Yeah, who'd like to jump in next?
Um, I will go ahead then. Um, what was the first prompt? It was what's something that you accomplished this year?
Yeah, some of you accomplished. Yeah, like a success.
Yeah, I would say that something that I accomplished this year was um uh finding a location to do the work that we're doing, to be able to like host our services and something that feels like it's aligned with um what we're planning and what we're doing and to just feel settled in it, you know. There was just so much that didn't feel like it was the right place before. And we've been through a lot of different places in the last couple of years, so it's been good to find a place where we can actually do what we're doing. Um, lesson learned, um, just be present, um, you know, be intentional, be present, and listen. Think that I always am someone who could talk, and I just want to go into 2025 with the intention of doing um, less less talking and more listening. And yeah, that's kind of a big thing for me right now. And I think we covered everything in my little synopsis there. So thank you for making me talk.
It's still 2024, so you're okay. Thanks, Mescal.
Mhm.
Christine, would you like to? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm in a different like wave than other people because I'm in the southern hemisphere. So for me, it's not actually the end of the cycle, it's sort of like the middle and the peak. So it's a totally different flow. Because we're coming up to the summer solstice. So I'm kind of focusing on bringing things up and building as much as possible. So yeah, like I don't know if I have the same kind of like assessment as everyone else in that way. So just mainly focusing on the things that I'm already doing and trying to not take on too many more things, but make sure that what I'm doing actually comes through and gets there so that, in June next year, when it's like the end of the year for me, then I can feel that satisfaction. Yeah.
Thank you. Um, yeah, well, that's interesting. I didn't because I was thinking about this. Like, it's been helpful, working with you in the sense of like you're sharing some of these things that are coming from like the Southern Hemisphere perspective. That like I might not, like I might not be thinking about, right? Um, Living in the Northern Hemisphere, and I was actually kind of thinking about that, and I was like, oh, okay, well, this isn't, like a holiday thing. It is like a year-end thing. But that's a good question that I'm wondering if you would. I'm interested. So does like the end of the? I mean, do you all even consider like December kind of like the end of the calendar year, or is it just like June is more like? I mean, it's all cyclical. So I think about it. Should
Yeah.
it be like, yeah,
I think it depends if you're like a mainstream type or if you've got a bit of thought about things. Like a lot of people just celebrate Halloween even here, even though it's like spring. Like there's just no, like there's a lot of just real incoherency there. Yeah.
do calendars like when they're printed, do they like start in January and end in December, or is it? Do they like?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah. You have to make your own effort if you want to try and do something different.
I see.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, thank you.
Ethiopia has its own calendar.
cool. What is it
Fun
based
fact.
on?
The what is the name of it? The Julius calendar, I think? Before the Gregorian calendar. Yeah, and there's
I'll have to look
7
into that.
years. Huh?
I'll have to look into that.
Yeah. They're 7 years behind and they have 13 months.
Yeah, right. That makes sense.
Cool.
Mhm. And Christmas is on January 7th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to have an injera oven, make injera.
Hmm. I love that stuff.
Good.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for that. That's helpful. At least, for me, just to be like what both of you are sharing, pull me out a little bit of my Eurocentric kind of perspective. Um, so, all right. Yeah, thanks. I'm glad to hear from everybody. So, what we could I think, right now, yeah, for me, there's sort of like a couple ways we could go. This turning point, we could, dive more into, right, like operations stuff, or we could, continue on with more kind of like community meeting type things. And again, I had the idea of, one thing I thought would be interesting to, sort of show was like the community contributions because the ledger is sort of up and running there. but there's a lot happening with operations, so we could jump right into that. Circles, roles, proposals, sociocracy, etc. Anybody have any opinions or desires?
Well, I just read Mescal's document before this meeting, so I'm not sure if anyone else had the chance.
I was able to go through it very quickly.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's also, the idea, right? Like that tomorrow we know is the operations meeting, but we also know that Christine is not, able to attend that. And then, next week would be the operations meeting, but again, we're not sure about the meeting, so we could, um, could be helpful in that way to, start delving into, some of this stuff that's fresh here, operations wise, I mean.
What is the priority? What is the thing that we would like to see use the time used for that would make everybody feel good about our time together?
It's a great question. Um, yeah.
I'd rather focus on doing stuff, like rather than a community meeting. I guess like I'm just putting that on hold until we've got more community members in my mind, like actually doing, unless there's like a positive reason to do some of those things, like just as a run through.
Um, yeah, I mean, I like I think that we're starting to come in, like I like coming in with this, like with this more deliberateness, to start and to say, okay, hey, like this is a community meeting and try and, sort of like figure out what those are going to be. Uh, so like kind of starting in that space, but then I think like if we get to a group, of people here, right, where it's not really like new community folks, like I think it's great to jump into operation stuff as long as everybody likes. So, and given the circumstances, sounds good to me. Deborah said she doesn't really have a preference. Um, I think that, to me, to answer Mescal's question, which is a good question. Yeah, I'd love to sort of get a little bit of a head of steam on like how we're going to handle, you know, like defining like circles and roles. Um, and then, we could also talk about, if there are any like, what proposals are here. I mean, I guess those are now that I'm just sort of like listing, there's like the circles and roles, there's, you know, um, proposals, there's also sort of checking in on projects. Um, so that's my answer to the question. And what other thoughts do people have on that question that Mescal's asking? Which Mescal, I think it's something like, what do we feel like is most important, or most present or appropriate to, get into?
I'm here to support. I'm here until the top of the hour.
Well, it sounded like the roles and circles was something that was um, really uh, prevalent, really important. And maybe talking about roles and goals would give us an idea of, um, you know, what is are there priorities otherwise, or, what direction. I guess I'm not really sure what is like the most important thing to try and be working on in order for there to be a smoothness and a sense of continuity. Um, and I'm thinking about the the onboarding and the member experience, which I feel like I never felt like that conversation to me had like progressed and closed. And maybe I just missed the ending of the meeting, and that's why I don't have that sense of continuity. Um, but I'm curious to know if we ever answered all the questions around, um, what needs to be done for the onboarding and the the member experience.
Yeah.
So did I miss anything from the last meeting about the um, onboarding and members, or do we want to get into
Um,
the other stuff?
yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I think there's a way where there's a like there's a lot. I think there's a lot happening, and um, you know, right. I think some of it is to like corral that into um, what are the projects, and then with that, like who's, I think there's a way where I'm hoping having these circles and these roles and kind of those definitions, and then people like able to step into that, then can have have different people holding different different projects, and yeah, and there was something actually I want to bring this in because there was something that Christine, I was going to send this off, and if I can share, but like it's like just like kind of a summary of like thoughts around like what the larger intention is. You wrote it a few days ago, Christine, after watching the last Wednesday meeting um, in WhatsApp. Are you okay if I share that?
What's it about? I'm not
Um,
sure.
I'll just drop it again in WhatsApp. It's just kind of like a summary. Let me see of kind of like what the like main idea of like trying to do all the
Mm.
like kind of the suggestions that are coming in. So
Yeah,
yeah, like
if you want to, you can share it. I mean, yeah, I think we're all probably in agreement, but that's, if it's helpful.
yeah. I'm not sure, but it might be helpful. It feels like it could be helpful for me to um I don't know, kind of center again around like the main kind of purpose of what we're trying to do. Um, so then like at least for me, know if I'm on track. So yeah, the main driver, so that everybody wants to know their contributions will be as effective as possible, with no double ups and as little miscommunication as possible, as well as being aligned with strategic plans and goals. That combined with a lean approach to feature development for the app seems to be primary. Um, right, Mescal, and basically just also like wanting to make sure that the work that we're doing is effective and on track, and we're making steady, consistent gains. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think that's helpful for me to just be like, oh yeah, that's what we're trying to facilitate here.
Mhm.
Um, so, I mean, my sense is that with that, like, we can't sort of bite everything all at once, but my sense is like, okay, where do we start? I guess it's going back to Mescal's question, where do we start? I think we could start just at like taking a look at what, as like at like roles and circles. Um, and coming to at least a group, decision on how we want to proceed there. Because I think there's a lot of, we've got ideas um, but just to make sure that like we're all sort of proceeding in the same direction. Is that, how's that sound? Okay, so
Has everyone seen that document with the circle descriptions, like the basic one? Because isn't that the latest version that we have?
is that the one that I sent
Right.
out today?
I don't know if you sent the actual this doc. I thought you sent the mirror board.
Oh
It looks a
yeah,
bit different.
right. Yeah, so there's two different things. Yeah, so let's why don't I share my screen and yeah, because I think it can help to start. So have people, Deborah and Mescal, I know we've seen this. It's really not all that much different than it was before. Um, but why don't I just sort of briefly sort of share what's here, and then we can talk about if we feel like this is we're on the right direction or if there's anything missing. Because I think if we're all kind of on board with how this is set up, then that can really that can help streamline the actual what we're defining. So really in the interest of trying to keep it simple, um, trying to just sort of um, come up with like what's the MVP sort of organizational structure, right? So what are like the amount of circles, um, or roles with each purpose that actually are going to be able to facilitate this organization moving forward, but without like being like too many, especially and also being in harmony with the amount of people who are here, right? Um, if we have like 25, contributors, then maybe this needs to expand into more roles. So that's the basic idea behind it. So with that, really right now I've identified 5 different um, circles, right? So there's the member experience circle, which I would say is the biggest, most robust one. Value exchange and the community economy, um, the governance and organizational coordination. Governance and coordination, like an anchor, or a strategy circle, right? Is kind of like for the larger group strategy, and I think would have members of all the different circles, and then the actual app development seem like a different circle in and of itself. So I don't know if I need to basically what we've done is write out kind of little like purposes for each of these. I don't know that unless folks would like me to, that I need to like kind of read. Here's the Miro board in case I put it in the chat. But the idea is that each circle has its each circle like uh, my contention now is that is that there's a small enough group of people here contributing that we can kind of write out first before we're sort of like writing out roles. We're writing out like and defining the circles themselves. So like the circles are functioning as a role, right? So somebody is sort of holding like the onboarding circle, and then as more people join in, right, then kind of roles can get assigned. So that's my my thought around it. Right. And so then member experience to me, it's, in my mind now I'm seeing it like as kind of 3 different circles, or 4, but 3, like sort of outreach, onboarding, community management. They could have different names, but then there's also like the member experience circle itself. So there's like the larger member experience like strategy, that's kind of like holding all of this. So, that's like essentially four circles or kind of four roles. Um, yeah, so I don't want to like, I think you all kind of get it. So to me, that would be kind of a place to start, and then from there, I, we can go about figuring out what is this specific process of refining these. But before we do that, I want to yeah open it up to folks and get feedback.
Well, I think that like the roles that I heard people describing it in last Wednesday's meeting, they seem to mainly fall under the value exchange circle. I felt like the ones that Deborah had identified as like the contributions, the offers and needs, and the value exchange kind of stewards, I suppose. So I'm not, would you would you agree with that, Deborah, that that might be the place where that action sits?
Okay, as long as value exchange we're talking about is the overall category and not the subcategory that has the tokens. Because I know we had value exchange with tokens, commitment pooling with vouchers, and the offers in the needs market. To me, they're all different forms of value exchange, but if we're, just whichever one it is.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, so to me, like, makes sense. Like, maybe even now, Rob, do you think we could pop in like those three things there so that they're there?
I do.
So,
Yeah. Value exchange model. Yeah, let's absolutely let's pop them in. Um, So, all right, I'm going to pop in these first two. Commitment pooling coordinator and offers and needs market coordinator. That feels fairly clear. What do we mean by value exchange coordinator and like how is that different than just kind of like the value exchange, the community economy circle itself?
well, I guess it could be when it comes down to the nitty-gritty, like when we're actually doing work with people to enhance their experience of the value exchange and taking their feedback. Um, yeah, that's my first thoughts anyway.
I mean, you mentioned vouchers, so I'm like, okay, anytime you have something, tokens, vouchers, you know, in offers and needs market, it would be connections or matches, right? So it's like whenever you have something that you're measuring, there needs to be someone that's keeping their eye on how that's going. If it's working, if there's issues, if there's glitches, like there needs to be someone that at least is checking and saying, oh, okay, and then again, I don't know exactly the details of it, Rob, but like when you show me the spreadsheet or the Airtable or whatever it was, and there was like, okay, for, doing this particular role this month, it's 40, whatever, tokens, whatever it is, like, right? Like there's got to be someone who's at least taking some level of stewardship of that process to make sure that that's going smoothly.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So I think that's what we're sort of defining. What do we, if we want to call that, like to me, I was calling it like the community economy curation. Um, but another name for it, is like value exchange, coordinator. I think, what I was calling this circle and like what we're calling now like this um ah, sorry, what happened? Um what we're calling like this role, yeah, gosh darn it. Sorry. Seems to to me to kind of be the same thing. And I don't, you know, I don't know to me that it necessarily matters whether it's like a circle within, this circle or a role itself. But yeah, that seems to me to be the thing. Like, the role that's of facilitating like all those value flows going back and forth, right? And that might turn
I,
into over time, like, oh, one person's just concentrating on the tokens and one person's just concentrating on the vouchers. But at this time, it's probably like one role. Does that sound?
It's one role, but no, it's not one role. It's still three roles, but maybe held by one person. But
Mm,
as there's more people, they can be divvied out to more people. Or maybe it's not held by one person. Because like I could see myself being the OANM coordinator, but I really don't know nothing about the yet about the tokens and vouchers enough to coordinate that piece. So I do feel like they're distinct roles.
I feel like they all fit into this community curation circle. And then there's also other roles within the general value exchange community, like circle there as well. For example, well, yeah, I'm not sure, but there could be other roles around that
yeah.
where like the curation is not necessarily the main focus. It's more like maybe just like data analytics, or it could be community liaison, like actually just being the person to talk with community members to get the information. So yeah, there could be a couple of like other roles around that.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds great. And this is great. So I think right then the question is something like, I think our question now, right, is it's more just a matter of like logistics. Like, do we want to, like, we could create a role for like a community liaison or something like that now, which is fine. And we could also just like add that as an accountability of like the value exchange and community economy circle.
Yeah, either way.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So maybe in this example, like for now, like right now, you know, we keep this here, and then we can, anything that might actually be, a role, like when we're writing up defining the value exchange and community economy circle, if that's what we want to name it, then we could put those in as accountabilities, right? And then we can see it's like, hey, that community liaison accountability is starting to get like, really big and has a lot of sort of accountabilities in and of itself, and then that just can kind of pop out into a role that then somebody's holding. Um,
Hmm.
cool. This is good. I like what we're doing here. Should we just jump into the like the next circle and just kind of do what we're doing?
Yeah, I'm not sure if like all those big yellow circles for member experience are that way. Like I haven't actually been able to think that yet. Because in some ways, I almost think that maybe programs is like one of the big circles, and then inside programs is some of the other pieces. Yeah.
Hmm.
Can I see what all of the different circles are again, besides member experience and value exchange?
Sure. Hey, Basil. We
I'm
are.
trying. I was
Oh yeah. Can you see that? No.
Go ahead. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I requested access to the mural board from my roots email.
Cool.
Yeah, but if those four, if those five are the circles, those are all the circles, right?
Yeah. At this point.
And so the intention behind reviewing them is to name what kind of roles exist in them. Is that the intention of the exercise that we're doing right now?
Yeah, that's right. To to clarify the different roles that exist in these circles. And to me, with the idea of doing that in a practical kind of present time way. So, not to be like, not to try and like list everything that might be or could be, in this circle, but really as far as like what are the roles that are, that are here now, um, and that would be like, occupied by people. So yeah, that's to me that's the exercise with the idea that then the following exercise, is writing out, you know, um, writing out those definitions, in the whatever templates we choose, right? Like with what are the purpose, what are the accountabilities for each of these roles or circles? Because, if we do that as step two, right, then step three is, oh, okay, now like people can start to occupy these roles. And then, that gives, um, that gives more kind of like clarity, and domain for people to, be like holding different projects and to be proposing things.
That makes sense. Okay. I'll be right back.
Okay. Yeah. And we don't have to like figure out, like every role or, right now, but I think that this is kind of a good first step to like make sure that at least everybody's feels like this is we're fairly on track here. Um, and right, and then as we write things out, right, we just like Christine's saying, might write things out and say, oh, okay, this is the community management circle, and it's like, oh no, there's like a program circle, and that is holding, you know, this. Um, any more any more thoughts on member experience circle, or is that good enough for now?
Yeah, I think that I would probably change those three big circles. Like, I feel like outreach, onboarding, and community management would all fit inside something else. Like in the way that we've just done with the value exchange circle, how there's just like those three roles
Hmm.
coming in there.
So, Christine, are you saying that it would really be like an outreach coordinator, an onboarding coordinator, and a community management, or maybe a community manager, and then those three go inside of the of a separate circle that is the liaison for the member experience circle?
Yeah, like all these activities seem like more of like the active like member engagement side, I guess, of what we could call it. And then there'll be like other parts of member experience that aren't necessarily direct member engagement.
Could you
Does
give
that
an
make sense, Rob?
example?
Hmm?
Could you give an
An
example of
example?
what you mean of like something that would not be member engagement? Because I would think that would go under
Right.
like app development or something.
Okay. Yeah. So like a direct example would be any kind of modeling that we're using for member experience that, sure, like it interacts with the app, but it could also interact with any other piece of the tech puzzle or like any other kind of touch point.
So I guess that's a question of of like, does that, like, do we want to call that its own kind of its own circle within member experience circle, or is that like, like part of member experience? And maybe it's maybe it makes sense or is less, um, more clear to have that as like its own circle, which would be like, right, like strategy and development, something like that.
Do you mean strategy and development inside member experience or strategy and development generally?
Inside member experience, right? Because I think we were talking about it that there's really like there's the strategy and because this is a big circle and important, there's a strategy and development within member experience that's kind of holding all of these pieces which connect together, right? Which is different than the anchor circle, strategy circle, which is holding like the whole thing and developing that. So if we're going to do it that way, right, then this second circle, which might be what you're um, creating, is like the member experience, development and strategy. Basil, we're working on circles and circles and roles. It's cool, huh? Well, not that we haven't been working on that for like, three years or something, but I think that we're really working on it. Like it's really gonna like happen now.
Yeah, Rob, I'm going to hop off in a minute, but I just wanted to comment that I think there is value in having a parallel or symmetry. So for the member engagement circle that you just created, you have community manager, then I would actually put onboarding coordinator or something like that and an outreach coordinator. So it's clear that that is a role inside of that function.
Hmm.
Okay.
Cool. Deborah, anything, just, anything to share, mention on closing or on you moving out of the meeting?
Uh, no, I don't think so.
Okay.
This is good. Yeah, that was my only comment really is from what I see so far, and I trust you all got it. But I think it makes sense to distinguish the roles from the functions so that we're not confusing them later on. So if we have a role and then we also have the function, then it makes it clear.
Cool.
All right.
All
I
right.
will
So,
see you
yeah,
tomorrow.
maybe see you tomorrow then.
Yeah, I'll be on for the other thing. I just have a co-working session now. So
Cool. All right. Thanks for joining in, Deborah.
thank you. Take care, everyone.
Member engagement, member.
How's all that I just did?
Cool. Would you call like you have the MEC as a circle? I might think of that or like call that like MEC or like member experience like development and strategy or something like that. Because then that, something that points towards
Yeah.
its function.
Yeah, I'm not sure like what the title would be, like coordinator or whatever here.
People want to
I
see. I
guess
know I showed
programs
this
over.
last time, but just in case everybody didn't see, this is Harley and this is her Bite Me holiday sweater.
So friendly.
She makes me laugh. Okay. Um, let's see. Um, so is programs like in the development circle is programs like program development, and then like a like community
Hmm.
manager would like be the facilitator of the programs?
I imagine like the community manager would definitely be involved in the program development as well. So it's a bit tough for me to know where to put that programs piece. Like it's kind of one of those ones like in value exchange that goes in a few places.
Yeah, totally. Okay. But I mean, I think it's like whether it's here, there,
Mm.
or otherwise, like what's here feels pretty, clear.
Definitely feels clearer like this to me, like having these two yellow circles there like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's clear. It's clear to me. I mean, it's,
Yeah,
like
good.
what was in my sort of like in my mind as far as like these functions was like these three, but I think putting them in here is just, like this makes sense to me. And then you're right, at a certain point, it might like outreach might just like jump into its own circle, or at a certain point, outreach might, jump into another circle here or jump into its own circle there. But I think for now,
Mm. Yeah, and it could also be in like if we did have a marketing circle or something like that, that could be a big part of that.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I'm
But it
sort of
does have to
thinking,
jive.
oh, go
Yeah.
ahead.
It does have to jive with like the rest of the planning though around like onboarding and general community stuff. So
Totally. I'm kind of thinking about this as like, for now, that's where like the marketing lives.
yeah, well, that's definitely a part that I can be involved in, but it's not like something that I want to be like totally in charge of either. Like, because it
Yeah,
is huge.
yeah. Because, right at a certain point as well. Okay, cool, Mescal, BRB. See you soon. At a certain point as well, right? Like marketing, like outreach in conventional speak, right? Outreach would go to split to like this might happen soon, right? Like marketing and sales, or like, outreach and relationship building. So some of that is already happening, which is like, we're saying like, hey, we need to log on our CRM who we're talking to. Um,
Hmm.
but right now that's all within outreach. I don't know. Maybe there, as we start writing these things out, we might just realize there needs to be like, you know,
Well,
uh,
should we put CRM in here, or is that something that comes under one of these roles here already?
outreach coordinator. I mean, right now, in maybe we just need to create like an outreach circle. Um, so I'm using the term outreach, as like to me when I'm using the term outreach, I'm like referring to conventionally like sales and marketing. I'm just trying to bring in, a different term.
Hmm.
It could be outreach, right? Like in outreach and storytelling,
Yeah.
something like that. So I think, um, but maybe it does need its own circle, whether it's inside or outside member experience, because we are like,
Hmm.
like the website all falls under that, like talking with people.
Yeah.
Everybody we're talking, like we're talking with and logging people in the CRM, that falls under that. So I'm gonna
So you
be,
think I should just create a mini outreach circle right here?
yeah, maybe,
Or,
yeah. I don't know. Does
but
this,
wouldn't that, it's tricky because it sort of goes under that member engagement a little bit, or not really, because some people aren't members yet if they're just in the outreach phase. Is that how it
yeah,
is?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's its own circle now, but maybe for now we like keep it in member experience, so that way we know it's
Hmm.
tied together. And at a certain point, it might just need to like break out into its own circle.
Hmm.
Yeah. Thank you. While you're doing that, I will BRB really quick. All right. That's
How do
cool.
you feel, Mescal? Do you feel like we're on track, and like what do you want to see happening?
Um, I mean, it makes sense to define this stuff. Um, I guess, um, yeah, I mean, it makes sense to define this stuff. I think that just we should try not to get stuck in any one section. You know, we should just make sure we try and get through all of the different sections. If you know, that
Yeah,
seems like
because
that's a priority.
right. Yeah, because it seems like the app is a big piece right now. So we're sort of
Yeah.
should we jump there?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think we're good to go. Deborah's back.
Mhm.
She's like, that co-working session sucks. I'm coming back to HSC. I think we're good to go with member experience. Yeah.
All right.
Um, okay, so then, hi Deborah, you're back. Did your co-working session, did it just not cut the mustard or what?
No, I don't know where she is, so I told her to message me when she gets on and I'll switch over.
All right. Cool. So app development and implementation. I don't know. I hadn't really been thinking about I really hadn't been thinking about this as far as specific roles or circles. I guess I've been. I don't know. I might. It might be a good exercise to go through and try and write it up. Like, what are its accountabilities? For me, it's like I don't know. It's basically the circles. The accountabilities is to like build build the member portal and liaison with value exchange circle and member experience circle to make sure that the portal is being built in a way that is, like actually in alignment with everything. But that's just like right off the top of my head.
Mhm.
And maybe that's good enough for now. What else? Is there missing?
Well, I guess there's maintenance and just the basics like that.
Uh, coordinate. Oh yeah, I guess I already did write this. Develop, build, coordinate with other circles. Huh. Updates and maintenance.
And
We feel okay about that for now?
Yeah.
Cool. Moving on. Two more circles. All right, let's go to governance. So, all right, so have this as a separate circle. I'm just going to read out like this is what I wrote before. I know it's been a while since I've gone over this. So basically, what it had here before is like develops and maintains the core governance frameworks for HSC to function effectively. Establishes protocols for decision making and group consensus. Develops the organizational structure, how members fit into that. Leads the coordination of actions, projects, initiatives, and people in order to meet shared goals. The first three sound reasonable. I don't know. I'm sort of thinking about how the coordination fits, but essentially, like what we're doing now seems like it's this circle, but I think this is more like like somebody like if there's one person, I guess to me this feels like somebody who's holding and maintaining this as we go along, because it what's coming to me is if this circle isn't there, if there's not a person there, then we're just sort of saying, oh yeah, like we have these structures and frameworks in place and they're holding us, but that's like to say that that's happening without like a human sort of maintaining and helping facilitate that probably seems unreasonable.
Mhm.
That all seem um yeah
One thing I've noticed in another organization I'm in with sociocracy is that, like, inside the mission circle, there there are other nested circles. Like the finance circle has to report to the mission circle, so there's like checks and balances. So I feel like we haven't necessarily described that here of like how the nesting exactly works.
yeah
Yeah, in sociocracy, like the root circle would have the representatives from the other core operation circles, finance, maybe governance, marketing or whatever, and they would have the double linking, ideally, one core person in that root circle that's in the what he has called the anchor circle. And then they report back to that sort of anchor circle, which is like the board kind of the organization, with double linking, so that somebody's there to listen as well as sort of govern the organization. The anchor is the governing of the entire organization. It's the C-suite kind of the sociocratic system. Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
So would all of these other four circles fit under the anchor or inside the anchor?
That, so there would be so the anchor would be like the center of the organization that drives everything, and then there would be like at least one member from the other core circles that show up for those meetings with the anchor circle. Normally, like an organization starts like this, very small, like 5 people or whatever. That's the anchor circle, essentially. And then you have to start creating these other operational circles. And so those people that start off at the core then become like the root members for these other root operational circles. And then, and then other people join those circles to like handle that department, that domain. And then once you have like, 4 or 5 people in one of these sort of core root circles, then generally the root circle would vote which other member to send in to these meetings in the anchor circle, so that things don't happen behind closed doors that affect everybody's lives. That's in a bigger organization, that's how we would want it. This is still quite small. So, but as it grows, um, yeah, like the organization would have like the seed circle, which is like this vision circle, and the root circle, which is like the anchor circle, which operates as kind of like the board of directors for the organizations. Um, but it's just, hyper transparent. Uh,
Mhm.
and then figure out like right now, like the root circles that you have is you have the value exchange and community
Oh,
experience as one thing, governance and org structure as one thing, and then member experience, um, value exchange and community economy. I see. Yeah. So what you don't have is you don't have a finance circle for the
Mhm.
organization. You know, um,
Yeah.
that's a core part of any operation is like the economy of the actual organization. You have this sort of the program
Yeah.
side, which is the value exchange. That's separate though. The
Yeah.
financial flow circle, which would start with like a kind of that has like a CFO function, but ultimately within that, eventually you would have like the bookkeeper, accountant type person, the CFO type person, and maybe like a payroll sort of treasurer type person would be ultimately in that circle or something at a small level.
Yeah. Yeah. Financial flow
Doesn't that
person with that. Would I mean for now, would we just have that as sort of like it's, just in the circle, or does it make sense at this point to have it like I don't know that it belongs within the anchor circle
Well,
necessarily.
so the anchor circle would have like a person that represents the finance of the organization, which can be which can be the same person as, it can be, at this point, you know, at the very, very beginnings, like the sort of anchor circle just has very few members that kind of cover a lot of ground each. Um, uh, but yeah, there should be like a kind of legal and finance circle or something. And right now, that would just be like one person representing that because there's no real money or payroll or anything yet. But but that but yeah, but the financial flow circle would be like a fundraiser, somebody that is going after like monies, grants, da 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 da, reporting. So that one, so it's going to start with like one person kind of representing that circle because you don't quite need an accountant yet, or bookkeeper or tax person or anything like that. But ultimately, as the organization grows, that's a core part of driving, is that fuel source. Where are we getting the funds to support the development? Yeah.
Well, isn't that wouldn't that go under the value exchange and community economy as one of the forms of capital? Because once we separate it out with legal as its own thing, we're kind of going back into the business as usual that we're trying to move away from, is what I would understand. Like there absolutely needs to be a dedicated role for those functions, but why would it be separate from the rest of the economy if we're saying that the financial piece is a part of the economy?
I kind of agree with you. So I would make the big circle like the financial flow circle, and then the core actionable subcircle of that is the value exchange community economy. That's what the focus is going to be on. And then there's going to be like accountant, you know, tax expert, because we're still like in America and global. All of that will become necessary.
Well, maybe
But
it's yeah, maybe what we're saying is that the community economy like curation, like right now, maybe like the financial flows person just belongs here.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
sure, however you want to structure it right now,
Yeah,
it doesn't really
because we're
matter as long as you have the function of somebody who's focused on how are we going to get funds for the organization to operate, because otherwise it'll just like run dry
yeah.
eventually.
But see, to me, like that's a different role. Like that's that like funding to me is a different role. That's the person who's saying, okay, we're going to get funding and I'm going to go talk to these people and apply for these grants and blah, blah, blah. and this person is saying, oh, I'm facilitating like where all the money's coming from and where it's going to, you know?
Yeah, the CFO. So even though we're getting away from business as usual, we still need a function of a CEO, CFO, COO, CTO, CMO. We still need those functions, but instead of one person being like the owner of this function, the CEO or the COO, we're creating circles that serve those functions essentially, and they're governed by a smaller group of people that kind of cover for each other, and it's more supportive and less dictatorial as the period. But we still need to function because the corporate models work. They work. It's just the problem is they kind of take advantage of people, and we just want to get away from that sort of taking advantage, you know.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
not listening. They don't listen. You know, they're targeted and they're really positional. They're the boss, and so getting away from that sort of
Yeah, it's hierarchical.
army hierarchical system into this sort of more flattened model is. But we still need the function, otherwise the organism won't move or function. That was the problem with seeds and hypha and all of that. Years it's not enough leadership to like govern to lead. So then you know nobody going after the money. You know there's lack of like sort of initiative um, can happen if it's too lightweight. Yeah.
Mm. All right, cool. So then uh, then with that, let's clean up and decide where, because we've got like, it all makes sense, but I'm like, we have internal legal and finance here, maybe legal here and then financial flows here. I mean, at this point, do we just call this like the finance, and then that, um, or do we need, like, be,
So
but rather than
the
having
little
like a
separation.
financial flow here and then an
There,
internal one, yeah.
there's the finance type accountant person that their job is reconciling like operational costs, where's the money coming from, sort of inflows, outflows. That's like the finance person for HSC. The product you're making, though, is creating a product that has value exchange in a community economy. But that's a bigger economy, a bigger system than the HSC CFO. You know, that's the value exchange community economy is bigger than HSC's internal operational economy. But
Yeah,
HSC's internal operational economy still needs CFO.
yeah. And we don't have to figure it all out today. But the interesting thing I think about, we have to see, because the interesting thing I think about HSC and what we're saying is that we're trying not to essentially, in essence, trying not to separate those two. We're saying no, it's all one big thing, and we might have to track it differently, but we're saying like this is just a big community economy that is meant to be self-sustaining and paying itself. So again,
Yeah,
we
I
have to figure out the details, but that's where I'm like,
Well, do you have a role in there for an economist, a regen economist, somebody that
right now we have
knows
like financial
knows
flows.
economics and knows
Mm.
money, how it works,
Yeah. I
but
mean,
also
maybe,
understands the regenerative ecological economic principles.
yeah. My proposal is to yeah, I mean that's all really good. My proposal is to put all of that in one role now, just in a financial flows role, and then and write in those accountabilities, and then over the next weeks and months in practicality, we'll see, okay, how does that actually like work, and how many people and how many like separate roles does that need to be, and where do they need to be?
That's the beauty about sociocratic organizational models is like you create the minimum viable structure with the core root circles that you think you need, and they have like one role and some other support people, like they have that small teams of like 3 to 5 people per circle. And then and then you're able to like morph easily because you don't like hardline into like we need like this person, this person, this person, this person, because you don't need everybody all at the same time. As things grow and change, you might say, "Oh, we need more people to do more things within the sort of value exchange and community economy." So then what will happen is you'll start getting subcircles within that. One circle will be focused on like financial flows. One would be focused on economics. One focus would be focused on, whatever. But but then it's like a need base. So you don't, yeah, you try to thrive with the minimum viable number of people initially, and just be able to like grow and shrink and grow over time, with this sort of circle governance style.
Cool. All right, I just made that note there so that way, like when we're actually writing the role, we have all of this beautiful wisdom that's been created. Maybe we say legal. Should we just keep legal for here now?
Well, I guess like would it be more like new paradigm to have legal with governance? I'm wondering.
Yeah, I think this is a good spot. I think maybe as opposed to in the anchor circle, because an argument could be made either way.
Yeah, I don't think there'll ever be a legal circle on its own, so it will have to go somewhere. I feel like governance might be the place where we're creating that level of agreements and that type of binding capacity that legal pieces usually have.
Yeah, cool. Who knows? Maybe we'll get so big we'll need a whole legal circle. And Todd can run it.
Imagine that.
Imagine that. Todd would be super stoked, I think. Okay, great. Did we do it?
Yeah. We haven't done like the nesting thing, but we like that could just be about rearranging like visually like how the anchor circle works.
Yeah, I mean, if the anchor circle's in the middle, and then you have the other circles around it, and then you essentially you have like lines from circles to the anchor, and like over time, the person coming from the member experience circle to the anchor circle is going to change. The person coming from the value, from the FinFlow value exchange community economy circle, that's going to change. But you have representatives from those root circles going to the anchor circle to make decisions on the governance or on the direction of the organization. And then yeah, so and then within the root circles you have nested circles. You have like smaller circles within each of those root circles. Right now you just have the root circle and the minimum viable, members that you need. But it looks like you've already started to break up the member experience circle into some key since that's an important part right now that you're developing. The value exchange and community economy might, expand to like a fundraising circle, a payroll circle or whatever. So, and those would be sub-circles within that root circle. So the anchor circle is still, governing the direction of the organization with like 5 people, but they're representing the core circles. Because you don't want like the anchor circle making decisions, and then one of the key sort of labor circles is not represented in the anchor circle. That would not be appropriate, or you might start getting upset circle members. They're not being represented. But yeah, that's the sociocratic and like yeah, for governing the cellular structure, and the anchor is acting like the nucleus sort of decision maker, but there's people coming from the other circles to the anchor circle. and those circles have autonomy on who that person is, so they can choose within their circle like who they want to represent them, represent the circle and the anchor circle and the decision circle.
Mm.
That could be like the legal, the lawyer that's in the circle, or it could be, an economist or the financial flows officer or whatever. That's for the circle to decide who they, think is best at the time.
Great.
I made a little bit more space in the value exchange circle just because I felt like there might be similar things there.
Cool. All right, great. So then the next piece, right, and just to name, so the idea as we're going along, the idea is that, we're putting these things in place, in for several reasons, but for one reason is being actual efficiency, even though, right, it's taking us time to do this, but um, that when the next step, that when these roles are defined and the purpose and the accountability, right, then people know, and people are able to fill those and know that, okay, this is the domains, what I'm meant to be doing, right? So that way everybody can be like, oh, okay, well, this is the purpose of that role, and if you put out a proposal, for something that's like way out in left field, that's fine, but we can look and say, well, that's doesn't seem to be in the purpose of that role. So I don't know if that spoke to it, but yeah, Christine.
I have a question for Basil. Have you come across like task force as like a subsection of like how circles work?
Task force?
Yeah, I don't know if this is unique to
Separate
this
project.
organization. Yeah, like sort of like for example, I'm in the mission circle in this other organization, and then we have a task force that's doing a cohort evaluation. So it's running over the course of a whole year, but it's not necessarily a circle in itself. So
It's
we're
like
calling it task force.
well, so in HSC, it's like Yost, who is an expert on this sort of holacracy stuff, sociocracy stuff. He came in to do evaluations where he's interviewing people in the circles and across the organization to sort of figure out, like the health of the organism. Is what is the function of this task force?
Well, there's a couple of task force. So I think more generally, there's one that we had for redoing the vision and mission. We also had another task force for, let me think. Yeah, so these are kind of jobs that need to be done that could actually attract people from multiple circles, I
Right.
guess is the other tricky part. Yeah.
Well, that's fine because like one person can be a member of multiple circles. The beauty of this system is like over time, an individual, they don't want to necessarily be pigeonholed. They might want to move over to an entirely different area of the organization, or they split their time. That was the beauty of the hyphen model because you put in like, I'm going to spend 25% of my time in this circle, 50% in this circle, doing this role, 50% of this role, and 25% doing this role or whatever. So that way, a single human can 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 give the organization what the organization needs when it needs it. They can fill roles. So like I think in what you're describing is like you'd spin up just an independent circle, with a small group of people that might come from different areas into that circle, but they won't necessarily be working full time in that subcircle. Maybe they are, but anyway, their time is still tracked for what they're doing. And
Mhm.
all you need for a new circle, in my opinion, to be spun up is a purpose. Like we need to have a committee or task force to do this. So we spin up a task force circle, and like who wants to be in it, and volunteer suggestions, and then we fill it in, and then we start our meetings for the purpose of that circle. And in the creation of a new circle, it might be a short-term thing. Like we're creating a task force circle for this purpose for this time period, for 3 months, 6 months, a year, and that'll just be in like the, you know, and then that circle disappears. It just comes and goes over time. Um, uh,
Mhm.
so yeah, so super flexible. Uh, Super flexible, yeah. Um,
Yeah, because what I'm feeling with all that you just said is that how can we apply that to this app sandboxing idea that we've got? Because we're trying to bring in pieces from value exchange, member experience, and all these other
yeah,
bits. So,
yeah. That is, you might call it like in some cases, it could be like um, it might be like a cross-pollination circle, or something.
hmm,
You like spin up a circle. The function is to bring insights from the different areas of the mission of the overall purpose of the organization, but bring
hmm,
different mindsets in different disciplines into a circle to help advise the development. You don't want the developers working by themselves without inputs from the organization. So that would be like a circle. That would be kind of a circle within the app platform development implementation, but it would be a subcircle that had a specific purpose, and you would have members that would go into that subcircle, or it'd be like overlapping with the developer circle, because it'd be influencing that. Um, yeah. Yeah, so I get like over time as like things come up, like we need to we need to do a website. So you spin up the minimum viable circle to like execute that, or whatever comes up over time. We need to set up a financial accounting system. So you spin up a subcircle that might stay around, but it might just be for short term, just kind of set up the software, set up the protocols. Um, so I
hmm,
guess, yeah, and so it's essentially like any new circle or subcircle within a circle, it just needs a purpose and potentially OKRs, like objective and key results of the circle. So like for their task force circle for the app development, the purpose would be, that's easy. And then you would just create like the objective is this, and the key results, um, if they're even measurable, are to provide, insights to help the developers develop a better product. Um, uh, Not everything needs to have OKRs though. You don't want to get lost in like, what are the key results of this? Just like we just need, it's like a support
hmm,
circle, you know.
hmm.
Um,
Yeah, so for me, like all that info that Basil just shared, I feel like this is the point where we discuss, like, as a group here, this type of temporary task force or circle specifically around the app sandbox, because that's what we're leading to as like a primary project at this time. Would that be cool? Would that be good? Yeah, cool.
So
Miss Gal, I'd love to have your input on that too, if you can come back at some point. She's there.
Yeah, I just have to deal with something. There's
Okay.
a little situation going on.
Yeah. So I'm not necessarily gonna I'm not gonna lead that process. But like that's just where I feel like we're at now and where we can go with all this discussion.
okay, so are you suggesting we dive into the actual like the app development, like project, if we want to call it that, or process now?
That's probably the main thing that's missing here. And also, I did create that proposal for it. So we
Mm.
could explore what that looks like to just run through that and agree or disagree.
I see. So I guess that, so then, okay, so then the question we're talking about is like what, I think we all have a, at least a fair idea of like what we're talking about when we mean the app, the app plus member experience development. So the first thing I'm hearing is that we're saying that makes sense to consider that like like the sorry like the creation of that, even though that might be something that's in place in an ongoing manner. We're saying like the creation of that is like a a project that has like a finite end to it. Does that sound?
I think,
Yeah, like I can visualize like essentially like almost like a circle between the member experience circle and the app platform development implementation circle that's overlapping in just a visualization. And you're going to have people that are coming from, the different areas of the organization into that sort of circle, into that sandbox circle, like the app, like or whatever you want to call it. But the clear purpose is we need to have a diverse perspective on the development of our core product here. It can't just be like a couple of guys in a room. That's what happens in
Or
most
just Rob?
organizations. Yeah.
Um,
Or Rob, a single
right.
guy in a room in a
One guy.
a
closet.
couple of guys, a couple of guys in a trench coat. Is that the story?
Yeah, yeah. So, right, okay, yeah. So I think that the idea is, I think what I'm trying to get across is that how we're defining it, because like we're saying that there, we're what I'm hearing. This sounds reasonable to me, but that we're defining like number one, there is a project to create this, to create whatever we're calling, like the sandbox or the mechanism that is then going to be used in an ongoing fashion, moving forward, right? So there's I'm just trying to get clear. There's two things. There's a specific project to sort of like create this, Miro board sandbox, the development mechanism that we're using, and then there's just like, the using of that as we go along. Does that sound right, or am I?
Well, without getting like lost in this sort of structural stuff, just focusing on the purpose, um, uh, nail down the purpose of the sandbox. And then as far as like the chief role that's required, in my opinion, is just a facilitator role in that circle. And then you have other people that are contributors. And then they show up and the facilitator of that circle helps to like, go between like the developer builder, which is Rob, and the other minds. And like you do mural sessions and discuss, and then and the facilitator can help to synthesize, you know, or help to facilitate the understanding to the builder, aka Rob, um, so that the builder can take in these insights into the development. So there's kind of a in between, a person that's like good at listening and explaining, to help take like the creative ideas or the issues that people are having and help to translate that, or help to support the builder, who's doing the code. Yeah, that's just my sort of off the top of my head, sort of the requirement.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's what that that document is. Yeah, what we've been trying to figure out. So what is the right? That's the idea of that document, right? Is what, if I can find it, what is the purpose of this? Like Basil was saying, essentially, like what's the purpose of it, and then
Mhm.
right, then the structure will follow. I think that's what I was hearing, Basil. Yeah, Mescal.
Can I make a quick note just before Pascal speaks? Is that this document was created by Carlos, myself, and Rob, like all considering these questions, and then it was synthesized with ChatGPT to put it into a sociocracy proposal. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, Mescal?
Can I get can I get access to this document? And
I thought I
the
just sent it.
you might have
I sent it to your roots one, so I'll send it to both.
You're
Try,
breaking.
yeah, try again, Mescal. We didn't
The
hear you.
no, I was saying you probably did send it. Oh, weird. Okay, I've got access to it. And so my next question is got a question, another question. The document that this that you were proposing, Christine, is different from this document, or is this the document that that you were proposing? It seemed like there was another document that we were discussing or that you were proposing, Christine. So I'm just clarifying if this is the
Um,
question, the document. Sorry.
well, this is the proposal, I would say. Like, this is the final. Well, this is what we can now edit and like agree on or edit. So that would be. There are some like other notes around this, but it's all pretty much things that are here or we've already discussed elsewhere.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure. And I'll take a moment to review it since I was in and out for a second there.
Yeah, ideally, like I guess we could have sent this out before the meeting, but I wasn't fully sure what where we were going to get to today. So
I'm not tripping.
So, okay, so yeah, so there's a lot we're kind of putting together here. I'm just noticing the time, it's like 10 minutes left. So I want to make sure that we, have action plans. It sounds like, Mescal and Deborah will be able to come tomorrow, to the meeting. And obviously Christine won't because she'll be sleeping, which is reasonable. Um, so So, uh, so maybe we, part of what we use in this last 10 minutes is kind of like trying to carry out, talk about what our next steps. Um, and so that way, by doing that, right, then, Christine also has a pulse on, what we think that we're going to be talking about tomorrow. With, of course, the understanding that we're talking about things tomorrow and all of that, but nothing. And of course, that's the whole idea, I think, of working in this way, is that we're making proposals, and so everybody has, especially at this point when there's not that many people, everybody has is able to have a say.
do you have an idea about what you might be wanting to do tomorrow that could build on this or like that's directly related?
Yeah, I mean, I think if we, I think one idea is to build on this is we have, we did a really good job, I think, of sort of saying, hey, these are the roles that are here. Um, And so then, tomorrow what we could do is, build upon that, meaning like, actually go over go, sort of talk through some of these roles and say, okay, well, what is the purpose? What is the accountabilities? So that's one thing we could do. Um, it's also, right, doing that is also something we could do asynchronously and then come together and talk about it. So that's one option. There's uh, we could talk about. I mean, there are there's a couple pieces here that we really didn't get to. The other thing is that we could touch in tomorrow on the actual projects and where we're at with those. So, you know, yeah. So I think that the asana board is fairly up to date. Yeah. What else? What are the other options for tomorrow?
Sounded like you wanted some feedback on the community contributions part of the app. Would that be something that other people are willing to do with Rob?
Oh, I don't know that it's even at a point where it's so much feedback. It's more just like sharing that you can start to log your contributions. So that was kind of more of just a fun thing.
Yeah, I guess like the pieces that I'm seeing ahead of this is like now that we've got, if we do have the proposal and then people edit it, like if there might be a few things to add or whatever, then we've got that. Then I think we all know that the next step is actually deciding what to do in the sandbox and like when we're going to do it and how and who and all of that. So, because there are other tasks that need to be done, like finishing the info packet and some of those other pieces, but I feel like this app building task force is kind of like where we're all at this point. And it also just helps us clarify other things around onboarding and around like other questions that we might have, I think.
Hmm.
That's how I'm seeing it.
Yeah, that sounds fine. So we could go over the sandbox proposal, which might actually make sense because, right, since Christine, you were one of the authors of it and the author of the final one, then to go over it, you know, in a meeting that you're not there on,
Yeah.
you know, could make sense. Right, and there's something about, there's something within that which also starts to, get get people involved. We can make it more specifically able to get people involved, like somebody like Mescal with actually like, hey, this is what we need as a feature in the app. So, you know,
Okay, so like taking it from the proposal into like actual task force deliverables and like, because as you say, like there's two parts to this. There's the ongoing sandbox, and then there's like just setting up the sandbox, which is kind of done to like a decent level right now, but it could be done in a more strategic and clear way, I guess.
mhm.
So that if we do have one or two other developers coming along, which we might, then we've got a way for people to slot in really easily.
Yeah. All right. So we've got the sandbox. Yeah, we could even maybe we don't have to go over roles like specifically, but we can at least go over like what might be a good plan for writing them out. We can, go over um, projects in the Asana board. Um, what else? I mean, we can tell that there's actually there's since Basil's here, there's one more question that I'd like to ask him about sociocracy and all of that. But before we do that, did we kind of touch on everything, that we could start to dive into tomorrow?
Sorry.
Ms. Gal?
Sorry about that, my phone.
Oh, there's also the document that Mescal created.
Oh yeah. I really like if you guys want to spend any more time talking about those three types of meetings, I think that we can use that as part of the sandbox process as well. Like it's very helpful for people to know at which stage, like maybe the contributions feature is only at the brainstorming stage, whereas like the member profile features at the decision-making phase, or, these types of planning that fits in with those meeting types.
That's great. All right, everybody, I have a question, right? Can stick around or not. I just have a question. I actually think it's, super valid and for what we're talking about today. Basil, because in sociocracy, right, like we understand what we did today as far as like these are the different roles, but in sociocracy, there's also like these standard, where is it? There's these standard like sociocracy roles for each circle. So
The secretary, yeah.
yeah, where I
The
don't know
leader,
where
the
are
lamplighter. Um,
I get too many.
There you go.
Yeah, so basically like there's like the facilitator, there's the lead, there's the secretary, and there's the the other one. Okay, here we go. So my question is here they are. Leader, delegate, secretary, facilitator. Are these do you think that right now it makes sense to start to like bring these roles in as well? Because that's, another layer.
so 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 the so let's say you're the leader of the app development circle, okay? And then when there's meetings, you need a secretary for those meetings. Um, and then we need a facilitator to kind of run those meetings for the decision making. You don't need a delegate inside the circle, but you need to create a delegate from the circle that goes to the root circle with the leader. So then you go to the anchor circle representing the app development circle. And you might be leader of the whole organization, as you have been. But as a representative from the app development circle, the app development circle is going to send a delegate to listen in on what's happening in the governing sort of anchor circle, or the root circle. Um, so that's sort of the basic structure of sociocracies, to make sure that each functional circle that needs to make decisions has a secretary to record things, a facilitator to kind of facilitate the meetings, and then the leader is to guide the circle, or in Seeds we use Burning Man lingo, we called them lamplighters, but so they weren't so like leader, like boss language, but either way, still like a leader, somebody that's like committed to the purpose of that circle and driving that circle. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we can practice this stuff. I really like the idea of of um of since you're working on developing an app, a product, um, this sort of sandbox circle is really good, because I mean it seems like a lot of just the energy of the people here can be focused on that, on helping you to develop the app, right? Am I correct, Christine?
Yeah, that's right. Like Mescal is taking an active role, and like we're asking input from Deborah on offers and needs, and have whatever else she wants to collaborate on. So yeah, it's the core project right now.
Yeah, so I would just like sort of have like the idea of the overall sort of root circles for the organization as they are on that Miro board, but not get lost in that, and then hone in on just like what the organization needs right now. So the anchor circle, which is still all of you, more or less, is making it, makes a decision like, let's focus on development of the app. And then so let's create this sandbox, and bring people into that to help to help the developer, the builder create the app. I think that's a good practice. And then after you go through that cycle of like, 2, 3 months or whatever, um, then other things will come to light. You might want to change the overall sort of core root circles of the organization, with more insights by the time you get there. But you don't need to like spread too thin, is what I'm saying. You can like focus everybody in on like a practical, tangible, target, action plan, in my opinion, or whatever the organization decides it needs. If it, at any point it needs like fundraising, then that'll be an action plan. Like we need fundraising or whatever. But right now it's kind of like ideation, testing, development of the first core product. I don't know the whole story, but that's just my insights. And yeah, and then for that circle, you can practice just for that sort of um, sandbox circle. Um, you know, we can maybe like Christine is like facilitator, somebody is secretary, and Rob, leader of the app development team, and then everybody else is like members of the circle making decisions, and then that circle can make decisions, and practice the decision making. The purpose of sociocracy, the reason why we have it, um, is so that all voices are heard and that we can learn how to make decisions together, in consensus. So yeah, so like, in developing the features or the way the app works or the way it looks or whatever it is, we need to make decisions. And instead of just having Rob make those decisions unilaterally, we have a circle to help make these decisions, and that's facilitated. And if anybody doesn't agree with a feature, then they can voice their opinion, and 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 there's two ways of sociocracy. There's like consensus where everybody like agrees before moving forward. And so like if you get to a point where somebody doesn't agree, then you have to do another round of discussion until they do. That could handicap an organization or handicap a circle. So with Haifa, we did it with consent, where you had to have X number of people represented voting, and it had to be a favorable vote for the proposal, for the feature or the budget or whatever to move forward. So that's more of like the HSC organizational governance decision that we have to make, is like, do we want decisions to be made by consensus where everybody in the circle says yes? And that would mean that in the anchor circle, everyone would have to say yes for anything to happen in the anchor circle. Or do you want it to be more consent with like a quorum and favorability layer? And different circles can have different things. Like when you're talking about like the financial decisions for the whole organization, you know, you can think about like the circle. Like, should this circle be like, should we all be like 100% agree for the voting members of the circle? Because you can have more people that like come in and are around a circle, or watching a circle, listening, observing, coming to Zoom meetings, but maybe they're just like advisors, but they don't have a vote. That might be me. I might advise, but I don't have a vote, in the decision making. Um, but you want to keep the number of people within a circle that are voting to vote something through. You want to, in sociocracy, I think 12 is the max or something, but generally like 5 to 7 is like where like the magic number. Because once a circle gets beyond 5 or 7 voting members, it can get unwieldy to manage. So you break it into multiple subcircles for different, functions. Um, yeah.
Cool.
So that's kind of the fractal sort of expansion of an organization. It's like it starts off with just one circle, and then you have a bunch of root circles, or one root circle, and you start to populate. So right now it's kind of like one circle, and then the development circle, and then this sort of sandbox circle with that development circle, and then you're going to start to like activate more, even more of the member experience. I mean, that's already active, but you'll keep growing those circles, you know, together,
Yeah.
and then they'll fractal out as like more need, because once you get into member experience, then potentially that will start to bloat over time when you're dealing with like 1,000 people.
See, that's interesting. I
Yeah.
just want to like reflect on that. That's interesting because I've been thinking about it, but in a sense, we're right. Like if we have 5 to 7 people here who are like involved in making decisions, right? Then in that sense, you're talking about like from a decision making standpoint, sociocracy. Really, we have like one circle, right? Which might be the anchor circle. But then like
We call it the seeds in sociocracy. Like when you're starting something off, it's like the seed circle. And then when you get to a point of like starting to expand, then you create the root circle, because then you have like root circles. Like,
yeah,
so you're in that phase between seed and root right now,
yeah.
kind of.
Yeah.
Um,
But I think there's a way where, like, because we're charting out, like, oh, these are these like other 5 circles. I also think there's a way that like those have to do with like or coordination. Like right now, from a decision making standpoint, we might only have like one circle. At least right now. But like but from a coordination standpoint, we're saying oh yeah, we need to start to delineate. The
so
value exchange circle from the member experience circle from yeah.
so the way it usually works is you start with the seed circle, and within that seed circle, you have people with different abilities. And then each of those people in the seed circle then starts to like spin up a root circle for like member experience, for governance, for app development. But each of those members is still part of that seed circle. So they're the first root circle, anchor circle decision makers. And then they come to the meetings like this to make decisions, in the anchor circle, in that sort of seed anchor root circle thing. But then they start to sort of govern their own circle, and then they need more people to come into that circle, and then that circle starts to take on a life of its own, with its own meetings, its own secretary, its own decision making within that circle. And then the leader and the delegate from that circle come back to this root circle meeting to report what's going on in member experience. Everybody can listen, and like, and then they listen to what's going on in governance and app development. And then decisions being made for the whole organization in the center. But then you have like so that's kind of the pattern. We get lost with the sociocracy, but it's very similar to like how a normal organization with the board and departments would operate. Um, it's just the people within the circles have more decision-making power, on the direction of their circle, and then ultimately on the direction of the whole organization.
Right. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Right. There's not like a boss.
Yeah, unless the circle decides like, hey, let's vote in a boss, because we need a boss, and they could do that,
Right.
but they could
Yeah.
also vote out the boss, like, no, you're not the boss anymore. She's the boss.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
so that's all. It's like, because different personalities, different circles, like a circle might be quite introverted people or extroverted people. You might get into trouble if it's like a mix of intro extra, because like the introverted people might not voice their opinions as much to an extroverted sort of circle. So that's in like kind of team building. Um, but when we make sociocracy decisions where everybody has a vote in the circle, it doesn't matter whether they're sitting there quiet or not. They still have a vote. And when it comes to their turn to vote, if they say no, then they can express why, even if they can't overpower the louder voices in a normal kind of meeting circumstance. So that's why I like it, because I seem really extroverted here. That's just from my enthusiasm. I'm very enthusiastic, but I'm definitely, more of the introvert side.
Same.
Hmm,
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Basil. Yeah, that's helpful. Yeah.
Hmm.
Anything else? I know we kind of ran over, but that was,
Yeah.
I mean, that was really helpful for me. So thanks for sticking around.
Okay, I can give you guys like a preview of the film I'm editing on the history of seeds. If you want to
Yeah.
end the meeting with that.
Sure. Well, yeah, let's, so Mescala, Christine,
Okay,
is
cool.
that, do you need to head off now? Or,
In about 10 minutes, like would be my cutoff.
Yep.
Um,
So thanks.
yeah.
okay.
Okay, let me log on
Yeah,
to
let's do
Zoom.
it. I'll be right back. I'm just gonna take
Yep.
a quick bio break.
Um, okay, so it's still like kind of in rough cut form, but it's like kind of the general script. Not all the B-roll's there, and it's not finished, but you can hear some of the stuff. Zoom. Um, oh, oh, HSC Community Meeting. I'll need to wait for Rob to let me in, but I'll get the video queued up. Let me make sure my sound. So I will go to Premiere. And see its history. And okay, there we go. Computer audio. VB cable. And turn that on. Share. Let's see here. I need to share. So send you request, and then settings, audio hardware, output, VB cable. So hopefully this works.
Such a way with
Okay, that worked. Okay. Um, okay. Oh wait, let me change my share settings here. Share sound, high fidelity, share. Okay. I'm not hearing it. Hold on. Audio hardware, VP cable, Zoom, stop share, audio, VB cable. Okay. Okay, if that doesn't work, I'll just show you yesterday's cut. Let me go Stream Pro, export, rough cut 5, yeah, open with QuickTime. Make sure my sound is
Hey,
synced up.
Rob, would you say that it's really clear now about this, like what we're doing now is like the seed circle, and then we have the task force, or like we have the sandbox as like a project, and then we grow like the circles as needed. Does that feel clear?
No, I mean, to me, like the work that we did today, is like helpful from a coordination standpoint. I mean, I think that was what I was, at least what came to me, right? It's like we're not, like we're a small group of people still making decisions, but from a coordination standpoint, like those, I think it helps to have those, start to define and operate from those circles, or else,
Cool.
it's still going to feel like mushy.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to just share it from QuickTime. Hopefully that plays. Share QuickTime.
Good. Smaller amount recycled than it was yesterday.
Oh, we asked the question already. Christine is why. Oh, the question is why? Why seeds? Why not seeds? Why not try to build a regenerative society? Like, why not try to shift the course of human civilization into one where we're building paradises of green? Like, why not try to replant our entire earth into forests? Like, why not try to create local food systems? Why not try to get more voice and value for our systems we inhabit? Like, why not try to cut out the middleman? I don't know.
It's a gigantic experiment, a gigantic lift. And we knew when we started it that it was a lifelong enterprise, not, something you do in 2 years or 4 years or 10 years. We started with the money. We did actually literally start with the money, with creating an earth-friendly cryptocurrency, which we did. And we became very successful very quickly.
While most of us dream of recreating a cleaner, greener, and more beautiful world, the financial system has very different priorities. It relies on infinite exploitation to feed a dream of endless growth.
A big conflict today is having to make a decision between what's best for you and the planet and what's best for your pocket, or best for your wallet, opposed to what's best for our planet and what's best for the thrivability of all species. So right now those things are in conflict. So the concept behind seeds is to unite those, to build an alternative financial system that rewards us for participating in it, generates wealth for us to be able to decide how we want to direct that, because so many of those projects that need to happen and need to take place aren't profitable. It's not profitable to clean up the beach. It's not profitable to replant native forests with no intention of cutting them down. It's not profitable to do the healing our planet needs. Which is why, for several decades of us understanding this, it hasn't been done.
Worlds depend on one planet with finite resources, and with that planet in the midst of a climate crisis. This disconnect between our financial system and our ecosystem is one we can no longer afford.
Fiat currency is part of the problem in the world because fiat currency underlying assumptions are based upon competition, they're based upon scarcity, they're based upon winners and losers. They're based upon extraction and exploitation. All those things are built into fiat currency. So if you really want to change the world, you can't use fiat currency. So they recognized early on they had to create their own currency.
And like that big pine right behind you, that guy you'll see as we get over to that side in the next few rows, the plants are a little bit smaller because they get a little bit less sun.
Now, is there a different way to harvest
Okra?
Yeah.
Not that I know of. No. I don't know how like a real commercial okra farmer does it. I think they just get a lot more labor that they don't pay because they don't take care of properly. Because everything in agriculture is either automating or taking advantage of labor. What Seeds is saying, we have these tools, let's invent something intentionally with the compassion and the space of appreciation that we know. And so whether the indicator is this metric or that metric, this flows into the mathematics of how the flow of the currency is evolving over time, recognizing the incredible commons that we all share. And if you put that into the design, you make it, software, you make it code, you make it public, you make it transparent, then it's just a question of, are we clever enough to make sure that it's fully reliable and that the metrics that we're measuring are in alignment. And so Seeds is on an experimental journey, and we'll be inserting the metrics that collectively the wisdom is saying, let's value this.
The Constitution itself needs to be able to support and to catalyze that evolutionary growth and development, and that therefore the Constitution within itself also needs to be able to evolve. Because we've been learning now over the last years what works, what doesn't work. In the Constitution of Seeds, we've also have outlined that we need to have the courage also to let go and to let die with dignity what no longer needs to be there, and then to be able to make space and have the courage to experiment and to also allow new developments, new growth, new tools, new ways to come into being.
Yeah, when I saw what Seeds was about, and I'd looked all over the world, I've been all over the world, worked in 102 countries to date, I'd never seen anything as advanced as Seeds in the area of principles and rapid deployment and radical transformation, which is what Seeds was to me. So it wasn't about analysis, it wasn't about research, it wasn't academic, it was let's go do something right now because the need is right now.
People were willing truly to contribute their talents, their time, their resources, their love, for something that wasn't tangible at the start. There were a lot of promises, a lot of intentions that we had, but everyone understood that we are going to be in the greatest experiment ever. This is going to be the experiment of a lifetime, because that's no small thing to set out to say, let's create whole new economic systems, whole new governance systems. So when people ask me, why am I part of Seeds and what does Seeds mean for me? It's this community. It's this community of people who care for each other, who show up.
The technology is ready for the Seeds community to gather together and to come together inside the membrane chip of a DAO. There's a fantastic opportunity to come back together in that space and to really explore the evolution of Seeds.
With the DAO platform in the Web3 space, we're giving that data back to you, right? It's back to the owners of these DAOs, right? It's back to the participants of the DAO that can now come into these new spaces and start to collaborate, start to coordinate, right? Start to address the real difficult problems, the wicked problems that we see in socio-ecological spaces, the space that Seeds find itself in.
Hello everyone. We're here at the Traditional Dream Factory. We're building a regenerative co-living space where our focus is really to regenerate, rewild and build as much food systems as we can.
My name is Terry Molnar. I'm a member of the Permatours group in New England and all places beyond, and I'm in charge of launching our local community currency called the Perma Token.
Our intention with the Heartland is to offer a real-life space for people to explore their life purpose. Doing all this in real life is a big part of Life 3.0, but that's not yet possible for everyone, so that's why we got inspired in creating this virtual version.
Starseed Village is a 156-hectare eco-regenerative farm in the heart of Guatemala, 1 hour from Lake Atitlan.
We did not anticipate how popular this would get and how fast it would develop and how we would lose control of the ability to stop people from trying to trade it prematurely before we even had it on any exchange, before we even had any method of liquidity pool to guarantee and hold the value. And more importantly, we didn't build value into the coin at the grassroots level.
anybody who's come in that expected everything ready-made and all these beautiful promises immediately realized. No, that's the intention. That is in our compass. That's what we are navigating for. But there have been several times within the seed's journey where you could see the danger of it splintering off, of people being dissatisfied or disappointed, or feeling this is not working, and I expected all these different tools and technologies and it's not doing what I wanted it to do.
Our tokenomics design was flawed. We watched it march up from 1 cent to 2 cents to 3 cents to 4 cents, all the way up to 9.5 cents, 10 cents. That system worked, but it had inherent within it a problem. It had speculation built into it. It didn't start with value creation at the grassroots level. It started with value creation in the model from the top down. That was an error. And we know it now, and we know it for lots of different reasons. Change thrives when there's uncertainty, because that's when people open their minds to new solutions. So the new tokenomics that we're going to come up with will start with grabbing value at the village level, at the grassroots level, and we will connect it in such a way with DAOs around the world that have their own tokens that will be able to exchange in some form or another. The tokens that they have, like in Finca Sagrada, for example, that farm in Ecuador, they have their own token. And as they create value in their local region, that value will eventually be exchangeable with the seeds token, which will eventually be exchangeable in some manner or another with fiat currency.
So, yes, there's a lot of challenges. I don't have the answers, but we do. So let's come together, let's figure them out, and let's get this done.
It's not about imposing our stamp onto the world or imposing our stamp onto the future, which is also a principle of permaculture, which you also mentioned. It's not like you are going to say exactly where everything goes and what everything does and take industrial agriculture to a higher level of precision, but you're investing trust in natural beings and natural processes and becoming part of a larger whole along with them. So that is the kind of thing that you can't even necessarily design that into the currency, but you can hold that consciousness as you work with the currency.
All right. It's evolved from there, but yeah, more projects, getting tighter. So, and there's still a lot of black holes to fill, B-roll, and tomorrow I'll interview Reiki again and Justin Joseph to kind of fill out the what happened part. Yeah, because that premieres internally at the meeting on Saturday morning, which would be 11 a.m. your time, Rob.
Yeah, that kind of got off my radar earlier.